Jessica St. Michelle of all that is. Hello.
Hello, Atlas.
Round 3.
Round 3. Third time's a charm.
Yes. It is. And what an evolution that we've been through since those first two.
Yeah, I was actually, just as we were about to start, I was thinking about how I met you right after I was in Ecuador, right after I'd had this huge vision of a divine feminine city 2 years ago. And I remember being so moved and yet so distraught because I didn't know how to create it. You know, like you get the vision and you're like, oh my God, I know that this thing is freaking amazing. And I saw it was like in the design of the divine feminine in every way. And I had no idea how that was going to come into reality at all. And I remember sobbing as I was getting the download during a San Pedro journey. And I was like, I don't know how to build this. I have no idea how to build this. All I know how to do is channel. That's all I know how to do. And I left Ecuador to go to a Jason Silva event to volunteer, and you were running it, and that's how we met. And
wow.
You know, and so to be here 2 years later, and you were the first knight, you know, the first man that I brought into the knighthood of the Order of the Divine Feminine.
Yes.
You know, a couple of months later, and that was my first journey into rituals as a priestess and as a channel. And I mean, these were things that were just dropped in and we did it. And it was so profound. And I remember getting ready for this ceremony that I wanted to do for you. And there was that badge, that pin, the pin that had the rainbow colors on it. And I was at a retreat of over 100 women. And I remember going to each of them and being like, there's this man that wants to stand for us and support us and protect us and be there for us, for the divine feminine. Yeah. Could you give him some love because of what he's going to face out there? He's going to need a lot of our love and support for him and his efforts and who he is and how he wants to show up in this world. And so dozens and dozens of women each held that piece, and they were transmitting and infusing their love and their magic and their appreciation for you, for how you were going to represent all of us and stand and be one of our brothers. And then to do this ceremony with you, that, like, I mean, that was a whole channeled thing. And so now, like, again, 2 years later, even though I didn't have the thing, but I had the vision, and I showed up and you showed up and we both did. And how it's rippled out to like come to this other revolution of the spiral 2 years later is incredible. So thank you.
It's as though the vision that you had in Ecuador was coming several years later, and that you went through the foundational steps that enabled it to become in motion.
And there were my trials of fire and initiation. So like there was all right, we're gonna have Jess learn how to channel and step in as a shaman, and let's go have her learn to be a dominatrix, and let's have her study some temple art and body and all these paths. And I was like, why am I being guided down these paths? Like, none of these make sense. And to see how it's synthesized together.
Yes.
Are you going to say that word?
Yes. And I would actually like for you to repeat all of the different fields that you drew from one more time.
Yeah. So I came from business. So business, channeling, so being a channel. And then I was guided to study plant medicine and the shamanic path. And then I was guided to step onto the dark path of the dominatrix and go into the dark there. And then I was guided to learn about the temple arts of sensual body work, of ritual, of ceremonies, of tantra, these kinds of components, while also becoming certified as a sex coach and relationship coach. Like, so bringing all those pieces together. And I've always been for empowerment of women, and then bringing in shadow work, which takes empowerment to a whole other level. This isn't business mindset. Okay, like, we're going to stand like Wonder Woman. That's like, this is channeling the dominatrix energetics. And that's the thing that I am now guiding women in, is getting them out of this feeling of being people pleasers and like, I'll do whatever for love, for safety, for living, because that's how we had to survive, was to do whatever it took, giving our bodies up, giving our souls up, giving our hearts up, switching them out of that to I do what pleases me, to being empowered. What feels good to me? What is in my soul? What is my truth? Where's my courage? And stepping into what it is that I want. And the dominatrix is a woman who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and who knows what she stands for. And this is the time for women to step out of just kind of being complacent and passive. And or a lot of women that have, so many of us have experienced the domination, the power, and there's a lot of people who think that the dominatrix is someone that has a power over someone. That's not true. In the truest form of the dominatrix, it is an energetic where you're unfuckable with. Like, you are in a total sovereign authority of self, which is a huge, huge shift. So for me to like come back now as like that dominatrix and that shaman piece that I carry in when I work with women and men, but particularly women, and it's online, and we'll talk about the posse in a moment, but the power is in going into our shadows. And we as women, we've been taught to wait for the white knight to come in. Oh, you're in trouble. Let's go rescue you and put you on the back of my horse, and I'll ride you off into the sunset, into my kingdom. So now you're in their world and you haven't dealt with your shit. Because the white knight, the light masculine, hasn't seen his own dark. So now it's like me helping women, where we're not here to rescue or enable each other, but we're here to go down into the darkness together, go into our shadows. And that's the shaman path. That's the dark feminine path.
Yeah.
And it's divine.
Yes.
It's divine to do that work.
Yes. You know how much I adore Synthesis, and so there were a lot of places to pull from, especially after receiving this vision, because the North Star appears in so many of our lives, but the biggest question for us when that North Star appears is that, am I willing to go on the strenuous journey in order for that North Star to be manifested? And it is a strenuous journey. You had to pull from a lot of different places that enable you to have the synthesis that you now carry and that you now empower with. So this very much so, this seems to be something that is in many ways a perennial spiritual wisdom, is that the roots must reach hell for the flowers to blossom towards heaven, and that it's a place that requires courage, vulnerability, compassion, patience, healing to enter and integrate, and then to resurface being much wiser and courageous to achieve that divine star. And I really appreciate your, especially for men, this is something that is an important perspective, because when you have that story that you gave, a lot of the time, it does feel like that archetype of sort of the woman, in a sense, coming and saying that I'm in service to that star, and that I'm in service to help and heal this, and that for some reason there seems to be some sort of an arrow that needs that, as it comes inward, in a sense, it then unlocks more. And we now live in enough of a social fabric that's robust enough that enables the basic needs to be met at such a level where there's more and more potential and capacity for women to step into a role that is more sovereign, and that from there you can have a more truly integrated being, and a more truly driven and courageous being. And actually men would probably really actually do really like that sovereignty a lot. Like, it seems to be like the next evolution is to, for men that really like that sovereignty in their partner, rather than that what seemed to be that archetype that you painted earlier. So it does seem to be the evolutionary trajectory, that it's moving in that direction, and that it actually feels really right. That it and by the way, this is not to say that, like, oh, traditional marriage, it's traditional conservative values disappear, and oh no, we're moving toward the liberalization and the globalization, and there's all these sort of words and worries, and it's almost like, in a sense, it's kind of like the archetype of those that were concerned about the motor vehicle coming past the horse, and that this is not something to fear, this is something to embody, because it's actually going to be much better for everybody together. And that I think there's nothing more beautiful than the gifts also being actualized. Especially, I think I've already talked for a while, and I want to ask you more things, but I think this is really important also to just be an evolutionary experience for me, and hopefully other men that watch this, because it's really sexy when women unleash themselves fully into the world.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? Just so that everyone in the rafters can hear.
It's really sexy when women unleash themselves fully into the world. And that's the new evolution of consciousness. That's just what it is. And the more that we don't fight that, and the more that we ride that wave, the more that we'll feel in harmony and co-creation with exactly what needs to be. I don't know about you guys, but as you know, on the program, we talk a lot about things like the Sustainable Development Goals, and we talk a lot about things like maximizing human potential and enabling the gifts of everyone to flourish. And so, as you know, women have a very, very biological capacity to nurture, and there's really, the more you think about it, that oxytocin that comes from when you're first with your mother, I mean, there is really, there's nothing quite like that. There's nothing quite like the womb.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like that first oxytocin from a mother that just adores you and takes care of you and loves you. And so there are some important traits that we could use, that love for the planet. We could use that love for each other. I'll end there for now. Because that's already a lot, but it's the first sort of things that come to mind as the transitions occurring.
So there's some counterpoints to that.
Okay.
And one is, society originally, the men served the women. There was matriarchal societies.
And can you give us the examples? These are important because we like to kind of like dig into ancient civilizations where this occurred? Where were the matriarchal societies?
Yeah.
How did those work? Yeah.
Yeah, those were thousands of years ago, and I can't off the top of my head think of a specific civilization. I am 100% sure that there's one of the beauties from the posse. So there's beauties in the posse right now, the Power Priestess Posse that I created, and they're watching the live, and so I'm just like so excited, like so happy.
Yeah.
But you know, today in this day and age, there's this sense of, it's called the queen-led relationship, the female-led relationship, where the woman is the one that holds dominion, not again in power over somebody, but like in understanding that. And I've seen multiple times now where there's women that have been in a relationship with a man, very masculine, not emasculated, quite masculine, and they understand that their sole joy is by fulfilling whatever they can for their partner.
Yeah.
And what has happened in their lives by doing that, like these women have become, like, have shot out into the stratosphere of, like, you know, in their business, in their success, in their life, in their sex life, in their vibrance, in their radiance, because instead of them having to take care of all the things, they have partners who are like, what is it that is not in your genius and your joy? What can I take and handle for you? So you can just solely be in your magic, solely be in your joy. And I've seen multiple women I personally know that have had that kind of that foundational support where it's like, I don't want to cook, or I don't want to do the dishes, or I don't want to do the bills, or I don't want to have to think, like, these are things that pull me out of my genius. And here's a man who loves me, who sees my vision, who knows what I'm here to do. Me meaning that woman, but like, you know, he sees her vision, her potential. He knows that by nurturing that plant, by nurturing her rather than a company or serving the man, that he's serving her from a devotional, like an honoring, from that knightliness that she just blasts off, and they go together. You know, so I know personally 3 women who've had that become multimillionaires over a year or 2 because they've had that kind of support. And it's like, and no dream is too big, you know, there's no shutting them down. So I had a really beautiful podcast about that with a man that's in a female-led relationship, and it's so powerful. So that's the potential of what is here. There's so many women who have so much treasure in them, so much, and they're tapped in and tuned in and they're channeled. Like, the women were the original shaman, the Neanderthals. Going back to the Neanderthals, it was the women who were the shaman. It was the women that had their wombs were connected to the cosmic womb and the mother womb. They were the ones that were in the communications and the healers and the wise women, and, like, you know, all of that. It was the women of the society, and they understood that. There's a channel that I did about the reptilians and how the reptilians. You know, like the women had the magic, and the men knew that, and they wanted to have a piece of that. They wanted to understand that. They wanted to know what it was like to have that, because the women held the magic and the power, and they understood the nature. They understood the harmonics of everything, of the cycles of the moon, of their cycles, of everything. And so that's how the society ran. It was by following the moons. It was by being in tune with our body rhythm, the earth's rhythm. And each one of us had magic. So if one of my sisters had a magic for a certain thing, or she had a healing gift about this thing, or I had this, you know, we would go to each other for that, rather than like, oh, she has that and I want that. It's like, no, I have this, she has that, and those who need me will come for that. Does that make sense? So there's like this sharing and this connection. And then there was, and for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, men knew to serve the women. They knew how to keep everything in harmonic. They understood that rhythm. And then there's a lot of hypotheses of what happened, but
that's the thing that is probably most difficult to archaeologically dig up and figure out exactly. Very difficult to figure out the exact relationship dynamics between men and women over the last 100,000 years. Really hard to figure that out and dig it up. So
I will say though.
Yeah.
So there's a book called The Sacred Prostitute, and it was written by a woman who studies psychology and young psychology. And she was she received this download to go study the goddess archetype and the prostitute archetype, the temple priestess archetypes. And we've been so fractured away from the goddess in our society,
Yeah.
and for the priestesses and what
That's
that
a true statement.
role
Yeah.
that they held in the society. When men were coming back from war, they would come to the temples, and it was the priestesses that would heal them and restore them. They would pull their trauma out of their bodies. They would channel the divine feminine in to restore them back into wholeness of who they were before they returned home to their families and their children.
Wow.
You know, the temple was where
Wow.
people came for that healing and that connection. And so today we have this massive mother wound.
Yeah.
I've felt it. Like there's nothing to fill that void, and that's because the goddess has been just fractured and severed from us in our society. And so the book talks about that. And there's pieces of like the dominatrix started in temple 8,000 years ago in Sumeria with Inanna, the goddess Inanna.
Okay. So here we go. So Sumerian archaeology, 8,000 years ago, goddess named
Inanna. Yeah, she was the first recorded goddess in human history. And her high priestess, Enheduanna, was the first writer in history, a woman.
Okay.
And she wrote, there's tablets of her love poetry to goddess Inanna. First recorded right in history was by a woman, a priestess, a high priestess.
Inanna.
The goddess Inanna.
The goddess Inanna, and then she had a writer. That's who
her high priestess.
Her high priestess was
Enheduanna. Yeah.
Enheduanna.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really important. I mean, the clarity here is really important, because any archaeological evidence that shows this style of relationship, the unleashing of the full goddess, the relationship of the warriors that are coming back and that go through a miraculous healing process with the divine feminine, you know, these sorts of examples are really important. And I mean, for me, the sort of easiest way to see it right now is in just the social fabric itself, in modernity, because it's, in a sense, it's where I live now, and it's, in a sense, it's most easiest for me to analyze and validate empirically through my own data of today, rather than, you know, looking at the slightly more archaeological and more difficult to identify data from the past. But although there are all of these very crucial stories and points in the trajectory of the relationship between the man and the woman until today, it's very much so, as you said, there's a profound amount of talent and gifts that can be unleashed more beautifully, fruitfully, and it's important to catalyze that. And, you know, it's funny because when you take a look at what happens to women in the developing world in modernity, when there's a greater amount of education, and when there's a greater amount of sovereignty, which is really the word, is having supreme authority over oneself. That's really that I guess the whole show probably boils down to that, honestly.
Yeah.
It probably does. And I'd like to try and distill things as much as possible on the program. So I guess we spent some time in archaeology land, which was great. And now we're in modernity land, and there's lots of other things we'll be talking about, including, you brought up the Priestess Posse group which has 1,600 incredible women in it right now that have different gifts that are going through the different processes that we'll be unpacking. And there's approaching 70,000 followers on TikTok. Those links are in the bio below if you guys want to go check out the content that is being disseminated there. And so the reason why it's important to bring up modernity for me is because there's inevitably it's heading towards more and more sovereignty, more and more for women especially, and it's very quickly showing that there are radically important contributions that they're providing our world by becoming sovereign. And that's really the essence of when you do get the, we talk about this a lot in high level perception, that first analogy of the seed of the tree and the seed of the human. The roots need the nourishment of the tree in order for it to blossom and have fruits. The same thing's true with the human. And so when you have just under 1 billion people on the planet that don't have access to clean water, that you're going to run into the problem where people are more primal, where people are not able to manifest fruits and gifts and creative North Star journeys and things like this. Mm-hmm. So I'm most excited probably for all of the potential being unleashed, including the feminine potential that has its own unique flavor. It has its own unique angle. And it's like, I really enjoyed seeing it a lot in my mother growing up. Is I got to see her step into her flame and her energy, raising me by herself without my father. And so that was very important for me. And I think it definitely enables me today to be able to better see more clearly how important it is for women to have that sovereignty and that power, and to step into entrepreneurship, and to step into creativity, and to just and see, here's another thought just for like the dynamic, right? If we're going to talk about the modern dynamic, right, we talked about the basic needs being met that then makes people around the planet less primal, especially women. They'll be more educated, less inclined to have as we've seen, the fertility rate in itself is significantly dropped to the replacement fertility rate's about less than 2 in the developing world. So every 2 people are being replaced by less than 2 children. Every couple's being replaced by less than 2 children in the developed world. But the spot where that's still not the case is the development of the continent of Africa and other places worldwide. But the second thing is, besides that basic needs example and the creative flourishing there, in the modern developed world example, what we see, and I loved all the past examples. Those are really, really important. In sort of the struggle sometimes that's visible today is that there's some sort of it's like the old lions, they don't want to let the new lions play. It's kind of the archetype in a sense. It's kind of like the old money doesn't want the new entrepreneurs to come in and re-architect things towards decentralization and towards all of the new emerging markets and things like that. And so in a sense, it kind of almost feels a little bit like that, like the whole old school dude at the country club that's 80 years old playing golf every day is dying. And it's like that style of consciousness is dying. Yeah. Like the younger 20-year-old guy is growing up in a world where where they very much so see the feminine in a way that it's more combinatorial. So in math, you could view that as, rather than being some sort of a binary relationship where it's like the woman that marries the man, or the man marries, they get married, and then the woman takes the man's last name, and the woman does these house things, and the guy goes to work, and that kind of a thing. That's like very binary. There's only kind of like one funnel that more modern times kind of funneled into. That's completely being obliterated with new combinatorics. So meaning like there's new combinations of the male-female dynamic that are going to express completely unique fruits, where, like you said, there are 3 women in the group that have experienced a different style of relationship dynamic in modernity with their male partner that they've made multi-million-dollar businesses. So this is what's unique. This is what's beautiful. It's new. And this is the kind of stuff that younger people are more excited about, is seeing what can come from the North Stars, and also what, especially at the time when it's so needed, regarding the health, the mental health, the planetary health. So you might wonder if you could visualize the data of the psychometrics and the cognitive schemas of the people in positions of power, whether it be the 2,200 billionaires that exist, or the Fortune 500 CEOs, or the 225,000 ultra high net worth, or the UN General Assembly, or etc. You would wonder how much of their psychometrics and cognitive schemas are aware of things like the divine feminine, or are aware of things like the 7th generation principle of the indigenous. How many of them are aware of what non-duality is, unity consciousness is? How many of them are aware of individuation and gifts and maximizing the prosperity of the social fabric? All these types of things. And so to me, this is one of the crucial pillars along the journey, is the divine feminine, and unleashing that fully into the world and seeing those gifts flower. And it feels like there will be a lot more healing. There will be a lot more love. There will be a lot more holism. Holism is a really good word for it. It's a really good word for it. I think that's probably my second good word so far. I'll give myself, yes. I think we did a good job with sovereignty and holism. Those are probably 2 good ones.
Yeah, there is a return of the divine feminine, and she so much wants to be here on this earth, and she needs her lighthouses. She needs the men and women, but especially the women, that can hold that frequency, because it's so desperately needed. Mother Earth is crying for it. The whole world is crying for it. And there's a piece of us where it is so easy to blame patriarchy. It's so easy to do it. I know it because I've done it. It's so easy to like say, well, they're wrong, and again, because I've done all the things, and that's not going to get us ahead. So what is going to help shift things, and how do we do it quickly? We are in an acceleration point unlike anything I have seen. And thank you, COVID, so much, because it's amazing that no matter what the ruse is or whatever the agenda is, well, you know what? The divine is going to find a way. And the goddess sure as shit found a way in to get a lot of people turned on. And I'm talking about people are getting activated. And I've said, I'm like, we're not in a time now where you're going to be in a mystery school for 12 years to become some kind of level of da-da-da-da. Like, you've got codes in you that you came onto this earth with your soul. And we're going to get them switched on and turned on so you get out into the world and do what you came here to do. Boom. This is the time. We chose this time. We chose this time, the most significant, the most challenging, the most glorious, the most, like, it is this time. This is the showdown. And it's like, we got to get online. Yeah. And you and I have had this conversation where there's been like this, like the in between. Like last year, I felt so lost. I went through the dark night of the soul for months. Like, I thought I was going insane. Nothing made sense. I couldn't form a single thought. We had the symptoms kind of before some of the wave. And there's this mass awakening happening. And all of a sudden people are like, whoa, what? Like, wait. Like, and their systems are like flipping. So again, I'm like so grateful to have created a space for women to, I feel like kind of like a Lady Liberty, like come,
Yeah.
I've been called that, like
Yeah,
the women
yeah.
in the group, they're like, you're like our Lady
Yes,
Liberty,
yes,
like come,
yes.
come in, because during this time, you are not supposed to be alone. You cannot be alone right now. You must like join in synergy
Yeah, yeah.
together in our sovereignty and in our synergy
Yes,
to
yes, yes.
create that kind of,
That's beautiful. That's
that-
another good third word.
I know.
Sovereignty, synergy, holism. Okay. keep
yeah,
going.
and like bringing these, especially women, together, because women are tapped in. They have their feminine psyche and their cerebellum, like they have a different way of just feeling and connection, and so many of them have gifts. And remember that many of us, if you believe in reincarnation, many of us have had past lives as witches, as healers, as priestesses, as and we lost our lives and we gave up and we were, many things happened. So we come back to this realm where we're like, is it safe to speak my truth? Is it safe for me to be seen?
Oh, sure.
Is it safe? Like, what's going to happen?
Sure,
Is someone
sure.
going to call me out? I remember that lifetime where I got, so.
And science also calls this, a lot of this is epigenetics of the familial lineage. And so if there have been family members in the past, especially women that have had that style of ancestral lineage and traumas, that it will come up, that idea of, is it safe for me to speak my truth? For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that, again, like, this is the time, and it's taken me a couple of years to be able to speak. So like, it finally, I had my event. So there's like, I love the hero's journey. It's like one of my favorite things. Like, it's like you get the call to adventure. All of us have gotten the call to adventure, to step into our power, our destiny, what our soul came here to do, not what our mind is, not what society's telling us, but what our soul was like, I'm here, there's this mission that I've got, and our bodies are like, fuck yeah, I want to do that thing. And so like our soul and our body merged. Our body is our soulmate, and like came here, and here we are to do this thing, but we're not feeling right. It doesn't feel good. We don't understand. Like, we're doing this other thing. We're doing all the lists of the things that everyone tells us we should be doing, and we're unhappy. We're not fulfilled. We're trying to fill ourselves with anything to fill that hole in us, because we're not answering the call that our soul came here to do, which is to wake the fuck up and step into our power of who we are. Like, we are masters. We are the chosen ones. We are the ones that our families prayed for. The thousands of years of lineage where they sacrificed so much because they knew there was going to be a progeny. There was going to be a progeny. There was going to be a chosen child that was going to come in and change the game for them, the whole lineage, and set us free. And so that's this time. But like, I had an event a couple of months ago that like woke me up like really strong. Like, because I was.
So is an analog fair to say something like MLK for Black people in the United States? Like, an analog for modernity would be something like what you're talking about with the Power Priestess Posse for the Divine Feminine. Like, this sort of massive revolutionary Divine Feminine awakening, Planetary, unleashing the gifts, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking like civil rights level
unleashing. So I don't want to, because it's
different energy.
Black.
I don't want to energy, but it's similar analog in a sense as well.
Yeah, in the sense of like being a beacon, in the sense of like, let's go, let's do this, in the sense of like, let's step into our courage. Yes, in the sense of like, we came here to create a better world, and we have to own that we did create this. We are creators. You and I created this. Yeah. We are co-creators, and we can choose a new game. Yes. And instead of feeling like we're pawns under someone's spell, which is total bullshit illusion, and be like, I'm going to step into the divine game. I'm going to own my power. I'm going to step into my courage. And so in this posse, in this group that just came out of, again, like nowhere, but it's not.
It's that foundational step that we were talking about on the way to that Ecuadorian vision that you had. Like, these are steps.
Yeah, and none of them made so, and that's why, like in my posse, I talk about how the way the goddess works, it's not a linear path. You don't show up and you put in the GPS and it's going to like, oh, and you can look at the map and be like, oh, okay, so from here to 2 years from now, this is how we're going to get there. That's not how magic works. That's not how the divine feminine works. Divine feminine, you're leaning in, you're feeling in, and you're trusting, in the thing that is not, you cannot see. And that's what I've been doing. So you've seen my iterations, you've seen the things I've done. Like this is, it's like, so suddenly for this to like,
yeah,
like that, like
that's the number one thing that I've been telling you
it's
since
like,
we've been talking the last couple months. Is that this is the thing that you've been really, this is that first like really big, after the big huge synthesis, is like this is that first big foundational stepping stone to that Ecuadorian vision. And we're also going to get to the Ecuadorian vision, like wonderland. So that's, is that the same thing as the wonderland? If you can speak to that's the star. Is that, we won't talk about, but is that the star?
It's like, it's a part of the star.
It's a part of it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So then in the Power Priestess Posse is post synthesis of all of the different things that you took in, is kind of like the Facebook group and the TikTok account.
It's like
are
the first
yeah.
iteration of,
Yes, yeah.
or like
Beautiful.
the first
Beautiful.
product. I don't even
love it.
know. Like it just,
love it.
it launched, and I knew that it was time to speak my voice, and I couldn't hold, like we have to be in our courage. And so this Facebook group that I started, you know, I wanted a safe space for women to come in and step into their power and their magic and their joy and have courage. Like the currency of this group is courage to speak our truths, courage to show our pieces, our shadows, like courage to step into that and do our shadow work. Like it's like for anyone that's in any kind of spirituality right now, learning to be able to do their shadow work. And there's various forms of it, but it's probably one of the most quintessential things. Because if we're not willing to see our dark, and we're not willing to go into our shadows, and we're not willing to acknowledge that, you know, we're all the things that we see in society is in us too. It just is. And we've got to go in there and go into those pieces and heal them in ourselves and find our treasures that are in there. So I've created a very, very safe space. And the women have too, you know, it's not just me, but it's like, I mean, it's all of us.
That's that synergy.
It is the synergy, but like there's this foundation piece of like, it's okay. And I want you to be like, I'm not here to snuff you out. I'm here to build you up, because the goddesses are calling on us. They need the lighthouses. They need the channels. So I'm an oracle. So the difference between a channel and an oracle is a channel is someone like you hit a radio button and there's, you know, music or sound or whatever that comes out. An oracle is someone who like shares space, like steps in, and it's like the divine or whoever you call and descends and like puts you on like a suit and like starts being embodied. So when you see women who are channeling the divine feminine through dance and through movement, they're oracles, they're channeling, they're bringing it in, you know, it's this movement piece. So the priestesses that are doing all of that. So like,
but channel and oracle have a lot of overlap. Tons of overlap.
Yeah, it's just the channel is kind of more static and the oracle is more embodied. And and so, it's just an embodiment. So this is what the goddess wants. She wants the embodiedness of her. And that's in the artists. That's in the healers. That's in the empath. It's in all those pieces, those nurturers and all of that. The divine feminine, there's so many aspects of her. And I strive to bring all of those aspects in and then call the beauties forth and up. And share and let's go. So so what's happened in this group is now there's over 1,600 women that are they're mystics, they're witches, they're healers, they're priestesses, they're oracles, they're shamans, you know, and it's such a magical group of incredible women and a few sacred men. I'm very careful who I let into the posse, and it's gorgeous. And so now I'm like, this is the vision that's coming to life. And there's a lot of the women that come in with abuse and traumas that haven't been resolved. And there's a bit of a stuckness. Like you can't really step into your power if you're not able to go down into those pieces first.
Yep.
And be willing to see that and slay and cut off the not themselves, but the things that don't belong to them, from the predators and the perpetrators and the abusers, and how to like face that and be like, no more, like you're no longer being a part of my life. And so it's such a rich, amazing group. I'm so proud of the women and how they've shown up for me and each other and the world, and how they're stepping into their communities and like starting things. And this is just after 2 months. This is 2 months.
It's 2 months.
And like these women are having tremendous breakthroughs. And it's such an honor and a privilege to like hold that space and then be like, okay, and how do we set more fires? How do we light more torches? How do we get this going?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we all
That's
come
right.
together as that, like we set the sky on fire.
Yes.
So, but it's being willing to go to our shadows. And when we as women have been taught it's not okay to go into our darkness. It's not okay to be angry. Like, be nice. We've silenced so much of ourselves.
Yeah.
Our no's or our yes. We've swallowed our desires. We've swallowed so much of our truths of who we are, what we don't want, what we do want. So really empowering them and embodying that and being in a state of vulnerability. I go live nearly every single day in that group, and I'm sharing everything, and then they're seeing my emotion, they're seeing my life, they're seeing what's going on for me, they're seeing me process my shadows right there with them, so they're getting that permission to be all of who they are, and that it's safe to do it, and it's celebrated. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. There's nothing. I promise you, I have never seen anything like it. And for so many of the women to say, I feel like I'm home, that is everything.
I feel like I'm home. That's huge. Yeah, to have that feeling sink into the heart, and to have that synergy of other women stepping into their courage as their currency. That's it. Yeah, that's whew. So I want to explore with you whatever you feel comfortable sharing about the examples, because we're very we're giving kind of the high level, macro level of going into the shadow, integrating, achieving gifts, stepping into courage. Let's get an example or two in about that process that has unfolded in however in whatever way you want to describe, to keep the data disclosed in whatever way you want.
So do you mean like for individuals?
Yeah, probably. And probably some of, like, if you can give us just like the most, give us some of the stuff that was really hard to get through and to unlock, and to I'd like to hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So there's one of the beauties in the posse who went through a lot. She lost her mother to cancer at 14, and because of and she was her best friend and everything, and because of the depression she went through afterwards, her father wanted to put her into a teen rehab center, or teen rehab center kind of place and institution, and those are actual centers of severe abuse that are happening here in the United States. And she was transported and shuttled through the night, in the middle of the night, away to these different places where they were having children, teenagers, hiking for multiple hours a day, or another facility where you couldn't have your feet dangling off the bed. You had to sit cross-legged for hours on your bed, like you couldn't leave it. And there was one facility that she was at, and each one was more severe. She has, in the 6 months that she was there, she has a binder this thick of the number of times they restrained her for no reason, and of all the drugs that they put her on and into that were above and beyond what are normal, acceptable standards. And they kept her there because she was a private patient. So for a year and a half, they were keeping her mail from her father. Like, they were monitoring everything, so she couldn't share with him what was going on.
Jeez.
And so she, in those times, she knew that no one was going to come and save her, and she was going to have to do whatever it took to get out.
Jeez.
You know, so, and she has such a huge heart. So she, you know, she got out, and, you know, she's been on a healing journey and been through just a lot of things. And I have so much admiration for her, because she has this, she's, like she's unbelievable. Like there's for her, she has such love. She wants to take care, help so many, and help animals and people. And so she came into the posse. Like she found me on TikTok, which is how I've organically grown my group.
Excellent.
Has only like 99% of it has been through TikTok.
Wow.
And she came on, and I started doing my lives, and you know, she's in her late 20s now. And it was the 1 week from when I started the posse, and she was like, I love, you know, this group has been everything to me. She showed up at a couple of my ceremonies and things, events I was doing, and she wrote, I stopped taking my antidepressants 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I just started like bawling, like
Yeah.
on the live, you know, to read something like that. And I didn't know her story. I didn't even know any of that.
Wow.
I didn't know any of her backstory. All I knew was
just
that
the first comment.
that was her first comment, was
Wow.
that she was off of her antidepressants. And I just started bawling, because I'm like, she's like, I finally feel good.
Yes, yes.
I finally feel like I'm home. I finally feel good. I finally feel safe. I finally feel like people like see me. I finally, you know, and she's so brave. She's a woman of courage, like truly, for me. And then we find out her backstory, and then it's like, holy fuck, like she went through all of these things, and she still has such a huge heart and desire to help others and to find forgiveness. And like, what a gift to have her in the group, and what a gift to be able to provide this space for her to really help her blossom and step into her leadership and step into her beacon. And like, she's a very powerful woman, and and help, and she's getting acceleration. So her gifts, like her psychic gifts and her abilities, are accelerated, and they're like just completely exploding.
How did she heal?
What
was her healing process? That's a lot of mom dying and then jumping for all those facilities. And how did she heal to become the person that wants to heal the humans and animals? And
she definitely did a lot of therapy, and I think she'd be a wonderful person for you to interview.
Excellent. Yeah.
And go deeper into. But that's like an exit, like
the Power Priestess Posse knows now, because I sent a video.
I know.
I know. Let me know when you're coming through Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Always let me know.
Yeah.
So there's so much space here to be held for you to share your journey and your gifts, and would love to do that. So
and
it's also cool that she came through from TikTok, and that actually, like, that's a really important point, is that to create those creative videos that enable people to see you stepping into the Power Priestess mode, that then makes them go, I want to be a part of that group. Yeah, that's really cool. That's huge. And you said 99% has been funneling in from there?
Oh yeah, like it's organically. So maybe at this point it's 96, maybe, because there's other beauties who are inviting friends in, you know. But I've only personally invited in a handful of my friends, because I wanted to create something from who I am at this moment, you know. Like, I wanted people to meet me in this moment, and like bring me, you know, and not have the past stories and you know, it's like they meet me here at this moment, and they're like, oh dang, like I like what she's about. And it's like, great, because this is who I am and what I'm about. So like, come, like, let's go. And you know, so it's an opportunity. And so then there's like select, you know, like you, like I've, you know, people that I've known that like I've selectively brought in. But there's another quick
story.
One. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
briefly prior to that, will you also explain what the questions are for that are required to be answered by the people that want to enter the group. So what are your entry questions that they have to answer? Like, how do you field? How do you parse, vet?
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've added. So I closed the doors 3 weeks ago to the temple because for a variety of reasons, because I understood that if we grow too fast, that it's hard to keep the synergy and the vibe, if we there was one moment we went from 500 members to 1,000 in a day.
Oh, you went in a day?
In a day. Like,
1 day?
Yes.
How did that happen? You had to accept manually 500 people?
Yes.
Oh.
And we just took this wave.
Was that when your million hit video hit? Was that at that time?
Something around that time.
Yeah.
There was just this huge spike one day, and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, there was hundreds of people. And so I was like, yeah, let's,
Wow.
So we started out with oh, this is good, this is cozy. We're at 100, we're at 200, we're at 500, and then the next day we're at 1,000.
Yeah.
And it's and so that kind of threw everyone's head because a lot of them were commenting on everyone's posts, and there's a lot of interaction and stuff, and now all of a sudden we doubled numbers. And so the beauties who felt like they wanted to help, again, building the fire, because it's not me, it's not just me, it's all of us, Yeah. So then we were growing again and again, and we got to 1,600, and then there was just a few kind of, I wanted to really, again, cultivate what we've got, cultivate that fire rather than keep throwing more wood on, but if the fire's not strong enough, right? And so so I haven't looked at the questions in a while, but
that's
there's
a really good analogy. Yeah. The fire, the synergistic fire has got to be strong between, basically it's 500 or 1,000 nodes that are all harmonizing and interconnecting. But then if you dump 1,000 more nodes on, then if the flame's not bright enough as those logs come on, that's a really good analogy.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Thank you. Fire. I mean, it's right here. It kind of just laid itself out for me. So right now we have over 600 people who want to get in.
Jeez.
Over 600. Yeah. And so among the questions are how did you find us? And most people will say through TikTok. And I'll say, and are you courageous and committed to your path?
Oh,
are you courageous and committed to your path?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And I put in parentheses, and you can't put down just yes, or something like that.
You have to explain.
And then why do you wish to enter the posse?
Oh, beautiful.
And you can't just say, because I'm curious. You can't just say that you're curious.
Oh, yeah.
So I put
that's
that
not
in.
bright enough of a flame.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just curious. I'm no, I don't want you. I want the courageous and committed. I don't want the curious. I want the courageous and committed into this group, because this is a high voltage acceleration velocity group. There is massive transformation that's happening very fast, very quickly for a lot of the women. So there's one of the beauties in the posse. She was also one of the very first to see me, and she wrote, and I still have the text on the video that's been seen 1 million times, over 1 million, almost 1.5 million times. Mm-hmm. Her comment still comes up at the top, which is I feel like I've known you. You are a teacher of mine in a past life. Yeah. And so she's in the group, and I've helped her, cultivate her channeling abilities and what she's done. She's stepping in as an oracle for Goddess Kali, and pulling that in. And she wrote me a message that I have that she sent me the other day, and she said, "You are the best teacher I've ever had." And I've been able to step into my channeling, and I'm preparing myself to be a lighthouse, and I'm serving my community, and things like that. And that, I mean, what can be better than that, right? Than these women who are coming in, and there's women who are stepping up to their abusive partners, and they're no more, I'm done. You're gonna treat me like that again. This is over. There's women that are doing that. There's a lot of women like that. There's a woman
that's great. That's excellent. Yeah.
Where'd my tea go? Oh, I guess my tea's gone. The tea, yes. So
look, it's coming back.
Oh, the tea is magically appearing.
It's magically, potentially appearing.
No, it's good. I just wanted the mug. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
exciting.
I love you, Jessica. You are beyond strong, courageous, amazing, and a true queen goddess.
Do you want
I honor you.
You want to read it on?
Oh.
Yeah, if you want to read it, that'd be great. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Well, I opened up the space for you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm happy to be here. Hi, guys. Hey, everybody.
They were Layla. So one of my, I adore
Really
this.
nice.
She is the sweetest thing. She wrote, "I love you, Jessica. You are beyond strong, courageous, amazing, and a true queen goddess. I honor you." She is like, she's a powerhouse. There's so many powerful women, and they get to show up in their gifts and their abilities and their healing like capabilities, and it's truly like fantastic. It's such an honor. But again, like they're given. You're opening it up. Women rule. A look at 5 matriarchal societies throughout history.
Perfect. What, may we actually this would be briefly excellent. So
you could scroll and I'll like share.
So the classic example that has been used for a while is North Africa, and that's the most common example that I've heard. So here we have Nubia, Kush Empire in Sudan. We have the Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea. We have the Palawan Society of the Philippines. We have the Kasi Society of India and the Mosul Society of China. So interesting. So Mosuo is Mosuo, Mosuo Society in China. Kasi Society in India is Khasi Society in India. Palawan Society in Philippines, Palawan Society, and the Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea is Trobrianders of Papua New Guinea, and the Nubia, Kush Empire of Sudan is Nubia. So that's really good. So we'll start with those examples to help us archaeologically dig in history.
And anthropologically.
Anthropologically, archaeologically, super important.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay. So was that the second person that you want to share, or who's okay? So there's
no,
another
just
person.
you know, I just like I'm popping up with like
That's great.
you know things that are coming up. You know, women that are stepping forth and sharing their offerings of like what their gift is. And
Sorry. I need to take a second to also just remember that you said that there are women stepping into their courage to tell their abusive partners that this is the last time. Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah, because that one's a little bit that one kind of hits me a little harder. Yeah.
So let's pause with that.
Yeah.
And just like be with that.
That one hits me harder for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of
that one's bad.
There's a lot of women who, you know, again, we sacrifice, we give up our body, our safety, we give up our body and our love, or for love. You know, we give ourselves up to our abusers. I was in an abusive relationship before I met you, like, you know, 2 years ago. I was with him, and he was verbally abusive, mentally, psychologically, emotionally, but he didn't hit me.
Yeah.
So, you know, but he was absolutely like it came down to a moment. There was one night he like threatened my life after watching a show and was like, if you ever did something like that to me, I would kill you. And I'm like, on what planet would this scenario ever happen? And he's like, if you ever did something like that, I would kill you. And I'm like, how did I get here? Like, we have those moments, like, how did I get here? And and then it's like, you know, you can have all the people in the world telling you this is not a good guy, you need to get out of this relationship, but there comes a moment where you're like, I'm fucking done. I am not doing this another day. And I had that day. That happened. And I made sure, like, he was off to work, that he was super happy. And then I packed all my stuff, left a note, drove to my best friend's house, gave her my phone so that I couldn't even answer his calls for 2 days, and I tapped out. And when I chose my life over a relationship, it was like knocking the first domino over of my life, and everything changed. But the amount of courage, and it couldn't be anyone talking me into it. I had to like feel it inside where I'm like, no more, I'm done. And that spark, that fire, that heat, that's the dom. That is our dominatrix. That is the woman. And I have kept her in the back seat, do cleanup crew. When shit hits the fan, our dominatrix steps in, is like, all right, this is done. Game over. Let's go. She's in there. She's in here. That moment when women are like, I'm done. I am out. It is over. That's our dom. That's our inner dominatrix. I want her to be the bodyguard.
Yeah.
I want her to be at the front, not doing cleanup crew. And they're like, all right, let's see how, oh, she's going to do that. Okay. All right. Well, wait. Oh, no, not enough. Okay. All right. How long? When are you going to tap out? But there's that moment. And so that's the other thing too, is for these women to understand how powerful it is. They can actually step in and claim who they are, and then take that action.
Yeah.
Because nothing and no one has power over them. And do I fall? Sure. But we're going to do this together. And for a lot of them to know that they're not alone. They've got a huge support network now.
Yeah.
Of emotional, love and caring. And I
actually, that you would be a good person to go have had the Power Priestess Posse to go into when you made the
oh my
move.
God.
So then that's like a really good example of sort of a place to be able to, like, I had enough of that. That was the last straw. I've packed up, I've left, and now my phone's with my best friend, and maybe I log in and I check in on that Power Priestess Posse group, and I make a video, and I maybe have a call with some of the other members that can relate, that relationship of that they're able to sort of, as having went through similar things. That's a really important thing when you can relate with someone else on a level of wisdom that they've been through an experience like that. Because that one really hit. And thanks for sharing your example.
Yeah. I mean, that was 2 years ago, and I was a strong woman.
You wouldn't
then.
be here. Yeah.
I was still strong. I was still confident. I was still great at my job. I was all of those things.
Your sovereignty was second.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was staying in a relationship because he saw that I was the one. But I was like, really? Like, you're not who I had in mind as that guy. So I wasn't trusting myself. When I actually spoke my truth 3 months into the relationship, that should have cut it. But it didn't. We kept going. It was a disaster. But it was important, and we both went on our journeys, and it's good now, but it took a lot. Oh man. Oh. So, but in this posse, it's for all of the women, if they're baby witches and they've never, or they're just starting to open up to their gifts, or they're getting curious, or they're going into their dark night of the soul, or they're in it, or they're emerging, or they're stepping in, or they're the high priestess and the elders and the shamans, like all of the, and there just happens to be within that group a lot of women who've been through sexual abuse, sexual trauma, like different kinds of, or other kinds of abuse. And then that's when I'm like, oh, I have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And it calls me to be how I show up as straight and clear as I possibly can, because I have the integrity value that I have is very, very high, of like how I show up and how I speak and who I be. And there's also incredible, potters and lawyers and business women and art, again, like all the it's just this really gorgeous mix. So wow. But again, it's like helping them to step into their magic and into their power, and trust that magic is real. Like that we call it the holy fuck magic. Like it is real when we line up, when we commit, when we get the intuition and we answer the call. Yes. I say that all the time. Yeah. Answer the call.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what they're there for. And we're all in it together. So So those are the questions. Those are the questions.
ready?
Like, Goddess is knocking. Are you going to answer? And are you going to do whatever it takes? Did I know a year ago when I was being like, hey, Jess, you know what? I know this dominatrix thing is kind of scary and completely outside of your comfort zone, even though it felt kind of natural. But, just wait, because in a year and a half, you're going to start this thing and it's going to be fucking awesome. And there's going to be amazing women in it. And you're going to be able to teach them what you learned, but in a way to embody it. It's going to be really fucking incredible and it's going to be worth it. I had no guarantee of that.
Yeah.
That was not a promise.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's like the thing. And like same thing for you. Like, we just,
entrepreneurs have that.
we like you step into the thing.
Yep.
So
I
I say that to the women because and anybody, because I want them to know that it's just like,
it's harder to step into that courage when the amount of the trauma in the roots of that human seed has not been properly integrated and addressed and that type of thing. Because if you don't have a group like the Power Priestess Posse to go into, and then furthermore, if you don't have friends that can relate or that you can share with, and that you can, that's why you said that you can't be alone anymore, that you have to come in to this fire synergy to really be able to rock it up like that.
This awakening journey is very challenging to do on your own, and that's something where I wanted to be that person that I didn't have.
Amen. Yeah.
I wanted to be the person I had no guide.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I had no guide. Goddess Isis, I surrendered to her. I trusted. I walked in faith and a lot of doubt, in fear, but I still did it. But I didn't have someone like me, and fuck if I did.
Yeah.
Wow. And so to be in this spot in this time right now where there's a massive awakening happening and a massive activation happening, that we're not spiritually bypassing. That is not an option. We're not, like, again, we're going into our shadows. We are going to do that sense of like facing our triggers. When we get triggered, that's our gateway. That's our gateway down into our shadows, and accessing them and finding the truth in there and feeling the feelings and letting the emotions run and like finding our treasures underneath that and our power and all of that stuff. So, these are the tools that we cultivate and we bring in together. And there's hundreds of women that are just so freaking supportive of each other. And it's miraculous. It's a vision that, I had and I've held with two other incredibly important women in my life, Misty and Marie, and I could not, we would not be here in this moment without them.
Shout out Misty and Marie.
Misty and Marie and Jen and Lisa, but especially Misty and Marie, because they showed up every time. And what we built, we started something on Lionsgate where we wanted to create a safe haven, a rejuvenation haven for child trafficked kids that have been trafficked. We wanted to create a safe haven where they could return to their innocence and joy and be in that again. And then here we are, like 2-3 months later, and there's a bunch of women who are in our space that are returning into their magic and their joy and their innocence. And it's like, we held that vision and that dream, and they came, and there's more to come. So and part of that responsibility of understanding the traumas that are coming in and the women, and me also recognizing that I'm not fully adept at them. Like, I want to bring in more true guides, like more people that is their passion and their genius, is to supporting the women through healing modalities or non-traditional, to support them through their sexual traumas and through whatever it is that's been holding them down, and supporting them, because there's such brilliant, amazing teachers and guides out there, and they're here, and I want them to be able to help the posse, but also make sure that they're taken care of too. So I'm partnering with a nonprofit called I Thrive Inc., and it's all about raising funds to help support that, to bring in non-traditional healing therapies for those who've been through abuse and traumas, and also supporting them in entrepreneurship, in helping them business development and being able to step up and take those gifts and those offerings that are in their hearts and in their souls and in their callings to be and do, and then creating a system where they're able to be held in that. And within that framework is the wonderland, is the vision that I saw in Ecuador 2 years ago of a marketplace where the artists are, the artisans are, and the healers, and there's like offerings there, and there's the coaches, and there's ceremonies, and there's events, and then there's a community component, and there's elixirs, and like it is literally a divine feminine city that would be built online, and that is the vision until it can be manifested onto the 3D earth, terra firma. But we can do it online and welcome in people into this magic city of wonderland where the women, these beauties of the posse, they want to be citizens of wonderland. And so coming into this space where an everyday person or a curious person could come in and explore and then get to experience the magic and the potency and the love that these beauties have been cultivating and building with their offerings and everything. So that's the big
love the North Star, and I'm glad that we unpacked that massive vision. It's as you were talking about it, I was getting excited because you're selling it really well. I was getting excited. That's probably why you have the followership on TikTok and the growth of the Facebook group at where it's at, because that's quite the pitch for the North Star vision. That's good stuff. But
it's possible, and we need it. And so to your point about sovereignty, women need to be able to understand, I do for sure, is like, how do we create a sustainability for ourselves when so much we've been taught just give our gifts away? So how can we create a sustainable piece? How can we learn some business acumen in a way that is in the divine feminine way of doing business? And the divine feminine way of doing business is where everybody wins. There is a win across the board. There is not like the
win-lose.
So even in
high
like
gross for everybody. It does.
So like
in economics, we call these decisions the Nash equilibrium. The individual can make a decision that benefits them and the collective. Right. These styles of omni-win, most of it is kind of like civilization design protocols and architectures that prioritize that omni-win strategy rather than the win-lose strategy. And it's really, it's a lot of it's game B. A lot of it is sort of this emerging group and field called game B. And it's a very beautiful and important group because it's basically a lot of people that are understanding that game A is not sustainable. So there's actually an interesting synergy between game B and the divine feminine here that I previously did not tie together, but those are very intertwined because that is the omni win, and masculine that sees it that way is going to be a really strong co-creator for that game B future.
I want that so much, and I know that there's people out there that have funds and resources, and they're like, where can we put something that is actually going to grow something? There's things will actually bloom from my contribution, and there are these women that are super hungry, they're super hungry, and they will pull in and learn and integrate, and they're here to do the work. Like, they're not shying away. They're not looking for someone to rescue them. That's been one of my tenets, is like, we're going in and we're doing this because
that's a good one.
So when I had this moment I was at a retreat and I was unleashing, I was in the center of the circle, and I knew that it was huge energy that I was letting go of, and I fully expected, I had actually predestined that there was going to be one of the facilitators, a man that I felt strong enough to hold that, like, okay, here's a man that's strong enough to hold that, and like, he can handle it. And like, so I'm like roaring, I'm throwing my clothes off, I am exploding, like just letting out this pent up stuff. And I opened my eyes expecting him to come in, and instead it is the female facilitator, who is this 5'1" Colombian shaman woman. And she comes in, she's like, okay, here we go. We're going to go down there. Let's go. Like, what do you want to do? And she, like, we were like, and she fucking threw it down.
Damn, that energy sounds awesome.
She is amazing.
That energy
She's
sounds
literally
so awesome.
she taught me more about being a shaman than anybody.
I don't
Just
think I've ever heard of a feminine presence like that. That's a kind that'd be a great guest on the program.
oh my
too.
god, she's awesome.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, one minute she can be laughing, the next moment crying, the next moment yelling, but she's so in her truth in every moment and showing up like that. And so she taught that to me, and I was like, every time I think that a man's gonna come and rescue me, do you know what? It's a woman who shows up and she's like, hey, I got you. We're going down.
Yeah.
We're not scooping. We're going down. We're gonna go down to the root of this.
Yeah.
And that I have such massive respect for.
Totally.
And so that's how I try
That's
to
how you
like,
trained.
that's how I was trained, and like that's how I want these women, because again, like, we're building lighthouses, we're building beacons, and I'm telling them, like, blinders up, like, focus on your work right now, take out the distractions, like all of the disruption and distraction that's happening, they're trying to keep you out of your center. Focus, like, get into your power, like, let's do the work. Because it's going to become very, very important what we do and how we show up in this world. And I want them to be trained as warriors, because this is a spiritual war that we're in. And like King Solomon trained his healers to be warriors and his warriors to be healers. And he brought in the best of the land to help train his people. And I feel that way too in this temple, in this city that we have.
In Warcraft 2, the paladins that were the really good fighting units were also the ones that you could upgrade to become healers, and they would heal the HP of the other characters in the game.
There you go.
There are very interesting ways of game design that are related deeply to the historical lineage. So it's King Solomon. And it was King Solomon's warriors that were healers and healers that were warriors.
Yeah, and he scoured the world, and he like sent his people out and like, I want the best. I want the best, and that's what he did. And there's this essence in that like, you know, for anyone who wants to say like evil doesn't exist, or there's a lot of light workers who are like, I don't acknowledge that there's evil. I'm only going to focus on this. And that's fine. But I also find that to be very irresponsible. And I've worked with teachers like that. And it's like, if you're not going to acknowledge it, it's like you're trying to face this world with your hands behind your back and your eyes closed.
Sri Aurobindo and the Mother Mira Alfasa, who are two of probably the greatest spiritual collaborators that have ever existed, they have a way to look at that, which is really good, which is that what transcends the truth of the good and evil is the truth of the good, and that those hold simultaneously. They work. Simultaneity is key. So in that scenario, it's that there is this yin yang harmonic flux that's occurring between that dark and that light, that good and that evil, but there's a truth that contains that, and that's the truth of what this is.
Yeah.
And that simultaneity is key. So don't just say does not exist. Realize that they do coexist, harmonize, but then that truth that many people speak of, that they focus on that light, is usually what encompasses them together. And so we have to sort of see that visually in order for it to what I would say kind of more, to make it more integrated into our psyche. And I'll just very quickly just like visually illustrate. I have this camera over my shoulder where I can actually just briefly show you what I'm talking about. It's just basically something like this. And this would be your classic truth, light, you know, lie or false, and then dark. And then those are in harmonic ascension. And then that's in a Ouroboros, right? And so then that's the snake that's the
that's an ancient goddess symbol.
Yeah, exactly. That one's ridiculously profound. God, I love this one. And so then that happens in the Ouroboros form, but then the idea is that as it goes in its ascension, that's the idea, is that the truth encompasses everything. It encompasses all of this. So that's the one thing that usually happens, is that sometimes people will only hone in on just this kind of metaphysical truth, and they'll say that this does not exist, but that's not the right way to see it. It's to see it happening in the ascension, in the Ouroboros, but to say that everything that is happening is in fact true, good, and beautiful, but that within that true, good, and beautiful exists this harmonic ascension. It's just been a crucial sort of visual for me, and hopefully it's helpful for other people. Like, and that also indicates, like, you fucking have to do your shadow work. Like, there is, that's the other thing about that it's trying to say. Sri Aurobindo in the Mother Mira Fossa said that the spiritual ascent and descent happen simultaneously. So, that's a very important phrase for people to remember. And it's kind of funny because that's also the it's funny because that's also Newton's third law of motion. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, and that's the same thing with the spiritual ascent. And I described that in the trajectory mechanics in chapter 2 in high level perception. And so you really have to remember that. Like, that is such a big key to remembering that trauma in those roots triggers the treasure of the fruits, but you have to go through that process. The spiritual ascent and descent happen at the same time. So to sit there as the knocks keep coming and to not answer them, and that's why there is this need, there is this calling for, like you described, like the thing that I would have also given when I was 19 years old, moving to Silicon Valley with all my Word documents full of ideas. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I'll just find that mentor and that person that will help me realize the foundations of entrepreneurship and will rocket me off. That's what I hope to help people be right now, for them, for those 19-year-olds. And that's the same thing with you right now, with what you're doing. You want to be that foundation for what you didn't have 2 years ago. You're making that foundation right now for people. That's
the mother wound. The mother wound and sister wound are very strong, and also a wound with men. I mean, we've like
there's so much,
and there's a very few men who are. I know there's many good men, and there are very few who are really stepping up, and not just stepping up, but showing up.
Yeah.
And really showing up.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you actually how disappointed I am with a lot of them. And I'm like, where are my brothers?
Yeah.
Where are my brothers? And I'm like, okay, guess they're not coming. All right, sisters, we got to train up. And thank you,
Well, it required me getting, initiated. I mean, for really what your process triggered in me was the acknowledgement of this even existing. There's so many people that are like, what is she talking, divine feminine, blah, 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 and it required, although I had been exposed to, the unity of existence and all of these things through my own experiential practices that I had undergone across the spiritual traditions and entheogens and all these other types of things, even scientifically with the universe, the one song, that I had went through all of that, but I had not went through that divine feminine initiation. And like that really, like, I hope this also acts as that for men in a way that, is portrayed through you in a way that is more inclusive and harmonic, and not in a way that is kind of at other times can be, thought of as kind of like, like in a sense, like sometimes guys can think about like kicking guys to the side. It's not that. It's not that. It's the twin flame ascension at a more harmonic level, and that's really what it is for me. It's just that it's that I like that yin yang that we just saw. That yin yang is that masculine and that feminine, right? And that relationship to be at its absolute peak capacity is all that we're talking about. That's yeah.
I know we could do a whole other whole other show, and I would love to, because I believe that men are cut off from the hurt down, from the waist down.
Oh, sure.
In terms of like stepping in, and that's their dark masculine, and they've been like taught, like they look around and see what what the wounded masculine or the distorted dark masculine looks like, which is the violence and everything that they see. But there's actually like a very deeper power in the trueness of that. But so they're like, I'm just going to meditate. I'm just going to be really conscious. I'm just going to and they're really focused up here. But their power is down here, and that's what we're calling forth, is like pulling that up. And so for me, like, and I see it in spiritual leaders, male ones, who oftentimes get taken down by their sex shadow.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a very common one. That's a good one to point out. Yep.
And there was a spiritual leader that earlier this year that had that downfall, and I reached out to him directly as everyone is bailing on him and does not want to be associated with him and is pulling out. Everyone's pulling away, and I'm going in, and I'm like, hey, let's do some work. Like let me help you. Like I'm willing to go in there. That's what I want. I'd be happy to do that. He didn't do it. Yeah. But that sex shadow piece that men don't look at, that predator that's in them, that they're not willing to face and look at, it will eat them. It will eat them.
Right. That's right. I have to deal with a lot of that still. I'm working on it. I'm working on it myself.
So that's always there. I am not afraid to work with men in their shadow. I would be freaking honored to do that, because we need more good men that are in their power and not afraid of it. And owning that and channeling that and doing it in a way that's safe, and that, again, that's a purpose of a dominatrix, is she creates a safe space for people to come in and access all parts of themselves without judgment. I want to help, so there's that piece too. So anyways, a priestess, ultimately for me, being a priestess is someone who I am in devotion to the goddess. And I'm in service to her, and being a channel for her, or an oracle for her, in service to those who she loves. And it's been the singularly most fulfilling role that I've had. And out of everything that I've done in my life, to come here to this moment and be all of those pieces together, synthesized as that priestess. The priestesses were the wealthy women in society. The priestesses were the VIP of the VIP. The priestesses, when they walked into the room, people would bow because they saw that she was a living embodiment of the goddess. Mary Magdalene was a priestess. She was a priestess. She was not a prostitute. She was a temple priestess. She was allowed into the homes of men where no other women would have access to, because she was a priestess, and she was doing ceremony. When she was cleansing Yeshua's feet with her hair, that was a priestess ritual that she did. So that's the call too, is for us to understand that priestesses were wealthy, they were revered, they had like beyond privileges that the ordinary woman didn't have, because that they were in service to the community, they were in service to the goddess. And that's something else that I'm here to revive and rebirth, is that. And we have incredible priestesses in the posse. Such an honor. Such an honor.
Yeah. Stewardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So the priestess serves the goddess.
Yeah, she's devoted
to the goddess.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So we have sovereignty, we have holism, we have synergy, and we have serving the goddess. Yeah, these are great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Serving her, I do what pleases me. Yeah. What pleases me is to serve on behalf of the goddess.
Yes.
And how I do that is, however way someone comes to me, I pull from my many tools and my many gifts.
Yes.
To show up and serve.
Yeah.
As an embodiment of the goddess.
That's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. The way that I do it, from the way that I am, is I don't really I just see the soul. I see the soul in the other, and that then I accelerate their flame with the different tools that I have in the belt. So I just see the soul and then accelerate the flame with the tools that I have and the wisdom that I've attained and things like that. So to me, it doesn't like to me like like it being a guy or a girl or whatever their walk of life being.
Yeah.
Like I just see the soul. And that kind of thing I think is really helpful. It's super important. I mean, of course, then all of the other aspects to the roots of their of who they are is of course important as well, but to sort of see it at that soul level in service of that, basically in service of the North Star. Ultimately, the nature of reality has a very fundamental essence to it being the North Star. The North Star achievement of the individual plays a fundamental role in the nature of reality, and so you're in service to that. I'm in service to that. And
we call it the Star of Venus. So this symbol, where's the camera?
Yes, yeah.
There. This is one of the most ancient symbols of the goddess, is the Star of Venus. And so Inanna, Isis, Aphrodite, they would consider planet Venus the Star of Venus. And so this particular symbol is very, very powerful, and I've resurrected it too, and it's a manifestation tool. It's an amplifier. I send these to the beauties in the posse, and one of my friends put it up against an amethyst, and it increased its power by 10. He could feel it, the energy of it. So we're bringing her back. We're bringing her back in every way that we can, through our dance, through our love, through our joy. And the more that you can be in your joy and get into your channel, the sooner you're able to. So I guess this is the last point that I want to share.
Beautiful. And we have your Power Priestess Posse logo right next to your head right now, and it has that. Again, it's Venus.
The Star of Venus.
The Star of Venus. I love that. And so that's been used very frequently to identify that divine feminine.
It used to be.
Okay.
I'm bringing it back.
I love that. We're bringing it back. I love that.
Guess who's back?
They
call it it's the 8-pointed star. It's the rosette. It's there's different variations of it, but that iteration, that's what I'm bringing back in. So, but yeah, the last point I want to share is for anybody, especially right now, if you're like, what do I do right now?
Yeah.
The more that you can step into your joy, the closer you are to being connected to your channel. And when you're connected to your channel, you're connected to your higher self, and then ultimately the divine. And as you're in your joy and channeling, the divine works through you, and you become a miracle worker. And so I really wanted to share that. It doesn't matter if you're a stylist, doesn't matter whatever it is that you're doing. If you are in your if you are in your joy, because joy is the highest human frequency that we have. So when we are in a state of joy, and however way that is, and for me it's play brings me tremendous joy, and collaboration, that brings me tremendous joy. And so when we're in that state of joy, we're in that channel, and then we get connected, and then the divine works through us.
Yes.
So when we're feeling like, why am I don't feel connected, or why do I, because you literally aren't. You are literally separated from yourself, from your joy, from your channel, and there's no higher calling than to become miracle workers, and do your work, the divine working through you as an instrument, as a conduit. But if you're not synced up, if you're not linked up, the divine can't get through. So that's my piece, my last piece that I really, really wanted to share, because that's a piece that I reinstill over and over and over and over and over and over again, is like getting into our joy.
Yes. Especially since I came back from that high level perception visual distillation, that I've been just hitting it over and over again, that tap into that. And I use these examples. These are just the examples that I use. Into the Christ consciousness, into the Buddha consciousness, into the Lao Tzu consciousness, the Confucius level consciousness, the absolute highest possible morality, ethics, spirituality, and live from that on a daily basis, on a moment-to-moment basis, and you just butterfly effect everything you touch is gold and perfection at that point. And if you create as an artist or an entrepreneur from there, there's no ethical issues, there's no moral issues, there's none of those that happen. But that is very, very difficult. It's, that's limiting belief as well, but that it takes practice to ground that, to anchor that in our soul. But that process is so crucial and so important. And the more that we kind of practice those ancient perennial spiritual mystic traditions around the planet, especially those like that, where was the shaman from again that came in with
Colombia?
That was a Colombian shaman.
Come on, let's do this.
But I love that.
Yeah.
So that will open it up, that type of, that's the stuff. And I love it. I also want to visually show that we have, as you saw, we have the Power Priestess Posse group on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is right there, facebook.com/groups/the Power Priestess Posse. And you can also find that in the links in the bio below. And I will also show you the Power Priestess on TikTok. So that's tiktok.com/@thepowerpriestess. And go and check out those videos and follow them. I'm just not logged in, but I'm followed on my account. And yeah. And also, check out some, there's a video on there that's at 1 million views. Here, actually, I want to pull it. I want to pull it up. I think it's really important.
And I reposted it, and now it's at over 400,000.
Yeah, she posted it twice. So it's, exactly. So it's at 1.5 or so. Yeah, it's a little further. There it is. This video right here is at 1 million views, and it was reposted again. We all know that's no small feat to be able to attain that kind of viewership. And so it's a big deal. Like Jess's ability to compress the meme of the divine feminine into a TikTok video, right? And then to have that succeed at that level.
That's only divine. There's no other way for me, because I have other videos that I think are fantastic that I've done, and they haven't had nearly that kind of touch, and that's okay. Like I'm happy that the transmission is important, that the transmission gets out.
Yeah.
So I do want to really acknowledge the beauties of the posse. There's like so many names that I want to blurt out and blast out, and if I had 4 more hours, I would speak about every single one and
name
how much they
do it.
All right. You want me to?
Yeah,
all right.
as many as you can.
All right,
Let's
I'm
give
gonna
a
name.
shout out.
All right, okay. Shout out to Scylla, Tabitha, Ashley, Madison, Kristen, Heather, Misty, Marie, Nancy. Oh my gosh, I'm going through them. Woo! Astra, Liliana, Isana, and some of the men, Nathan, David, you, Greg, oh my gosh, who else? Tell me some more. Layla, oh my gosh, there's so many. Ooh, if I could just bring, you can bring it up. What do you think?
Oh, is that okay? I don't know if that's okay for those.
No, that's true.
Yeah,
well, it was more like for me. I
for
wanted
you.
to remember them.
I see. I see.
Like,
I see. Yeah. Oh, okay, I get it. I see.
There's so many incredible souls.
That was a lot. That was already a lot. Yeah.
Jody, Deb, Kristen, of course. Oh my gosh, there's just, I cannot even say enough. So many. There's over 1,600. I'm so proud. Lisa, Heidi. Oh my gosh!
I love all the shout outs. I adore the shout outs. That's great.
And so many of them that
That's
and
all
they
a
reach
complex,
out.
beautiful story.
Madison.
Madison.
They're popping up. They're popping up.
Beautiful story in every single one. So
and
let's unleash that.
again
Love to share it.
so many, and I love you all, and you know that if I would name every single one, that it's been how they've shown up too. Like, it's not a posse if it's just me.
That's right. Yeah, that's the synergistic fire that's cooking.
It's bringing us all together.
That's
so
right.
I love you all so much, and I'm so proud of you, and I love your contributions and what we're creating together in the world. And I know it's only been a couple months, and like just the transformations and the magic and the joy and the power and just everything that, like, the deep dives that we've done, it's truly remarkable, and I'm so proud of us all. And thank you, goddesses. Thank you to the goddesses so much for believing in us and infusing us with so much. Like, it's just absolutely cataclysmic. It's supernova. It's a supernova that we're having. We're creating this huge, it's a velocity piece, and it's time. And I think that's why we're all waking up or getting geared up really, really fast. So all of it's happening. And Christine, thank you, saving my butt.
I love it.
And thank you to you so much.
You're so welcome.
Like,
I mean,
I know,
I adore this. This is beautiful.
I know. And like 2 years ago, right, when I asked you, like, how can I best support you, and you said to me, meet your goals. And I was like I wanted to please you, and you never took it. You constantly put it back on me. What are you doing? And like, as you were hustling, and you're like, what are you doing? And what are you working on, Jess? And I felt like awful, because like I didn't have my thing yet. And I was like, you had your thing, Coco had her thing, you guys had direct paths, and you knew exactly where you were going, and I didn't have it. And it was absolutely agonizing to be in that space and feeling like, I know I'm meant to do something, I know I'm being called, and I don't know what it is yet, and it's not here, and I can't figure it out. And like, I was just so racked with that, and so again, like, to be here in this moment with you, where like you were at a genesis point of many moments for me. And
likewise,
and like, we knew we were co-creators 2 years ago. We knew that. And so it means everything that you're to me, that you're here.
Me too.
You were my first night that I knighted, and and how that has touched your life.
Totally.
And please tell the men that, like, I know you do, but like, when they know who they're like what they're in service to, it's kind of like, in a way, and I wasn't in the military, so I can't say, but there's a sense of duty and honor in that, because I know who they're serving.
Yes.
But there's many men who don't know who they're serving, and they're just kind of listless, and they're like, well, I guess I'll go chase the dollar, or I guess I'll go build this company. I mean, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. Like,
serve the highest. That's what we were just talking about. Serve the highest.
Serving the highest. So again, like, if you see a woman in your life that you want to uplift, ask how you can. Like, if she has that magic and she hasn't had that foundation, like, we're trying to build temples on sand. We need like support,
like, really, like, hey, what are your goals? Like, what, is it really like that complex? No, like, just like,
what are your goals?
How can I serve you?
How can I serve you? How can I support you? Like, that's
the question we must ask one another. Like, so that's, I'm
Tarly.
Tarly.
Oh, Tarly.
I love that.
Jen.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh. There's like the next waves.
Yeah.
They're all there.
I thought you said Jen. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah,
there's a few
I think you did at the beginning.
Yeah, I did. You did. Yeah. And Tarly is a freaking amazing woman, and she's actually who created I Thrive, the nonprofit.
Well, that's great.
So Tarly Reed, she created it. She's a powerhouse. She's amazing. Yeah. We've known each other for several years, and it's such a gift, because she created this nonprofit in preparation for something to come that she hadn't seen yet, and so she created it, and now we're fusing it all together. So it's amazing.
And that also, will we be able to put that link in the bio below? There's a link for
we're creating we're creating a PayPal link and a Patreon, or I don't know, something where
For I Thrive.
for
Okay.
I Thrive, because whatever funds
Yeah.
go there
Directly. Yeah.
is
yeah.
going to support Wonderland. So it's going to support the women
I
in the
Thrive is
posse.
going to funnel also into Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack on the next sit down on
Yeah.
that, and also more on just the nature of consciousness and reality in general. So we'll wrap. Blessed.
I have so much love for you.
Me too.
I'm so glad we're at this moment.
You're spot on. That I was watching that juggling of different things of you until it really formulated into this. So it's just, I love seeing that. I love seeing that artist play their solo. You know, it's like it's awesome. I love it so much. It's really what. Again, I do think that the North Star plays a fundamental role in the nature of reality. So, all right, that's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Onward.
Yeah. Onward.
Answer the call.
Answer the call.
Answer the call.
Yeah. That divine feminine, that goddess. I love it. I love it. Power Priestess Posse, everyone. Check it out. Links in the bio below, again, for the Facebook group, also for the TikTok account. And also support the divine feminine around you. Support the artists, the entrepreneurs, the spiritual leaders in your community. Support them. Help them flourish. Maximize the potential of our entire social fabric. Get the basic needs to every single soul, to every single seed, and have them unleash their fruits of goodness into the world. We love you very much. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you soon. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Come to Wonderland.
Come to Wonderland.
Come to Wonderland.
Come to Wonderland. To Wonderland.